Live from the Injured on the Go Just Call Mo studio.
It's a blast!
It's Orlando's own Tom and Dan.
Welcome to Corporate Time with Tom and Dan. I'm Tom.
I am Dan. We're live on Twitch and YouTube. We'd love it if you join us. Just search for @Tom and Dan Live. Yeah, podcasts are now visual, so head on over there and watch us, and you may be able to see our next guests.
Yep, and we have some guests from the Orange County Regional History Center, thehistorycenter.org, and of course we have Scotty in. How you doing, Scotty?
Hi, everybody.
Gotta give you a blast.
And,
Why, thank you.
And Joy Dickinson. How you doing, Joy?
I'm doing good.
And
You get a blast as well. Everybody get blast here. Thank you guys for being here.
Joy is going to be speaking on April 27th from 2 to 3. Part of the Breckner speaker series that they're doing at the History Center.
Yes, sir.
And Joy, I'm going to go ahead and say it, as a Florida historian that has, she's been writing for the Sentinel, for 23 years,
period of
Florida
time.
Flashback.
Yeah.
And me and Daniel were looking at all the books you published, and me and Daniel love Florida history, so we couldn't wait to talk to you today.
And thanks for being here.
Thanks for having
And
me.
oddly, in a weird sort of related, unrelated note, my mom was a librarian, and one of the things before she passed that she loved so much was collecting Florida murder mysteries.
Oh my God.
Seriously. And there are some that I have at my house. I don't know the names of them because it wasn't my collection, but there are people, like my mom became sort of pseudo-obsessed with people like you that would take stuff we know that is familiar, landmarks, areas, maybe big historical events, sinkholes, alligators, swamps, Ku Klux Klan, hate organization, and you roll it all in, right? You take the South or what, like we say the South. Florida, I don't even like labeling it the South. It's a weird place. And like here, like my mom started collecting these books, and they're at the time, there weren't many of them. You being a writer, are there a lot more people trying to do what you do and localize the mystery or bring it back to home or write from what they know? Or
Oh yeah. Well, Florida has always inspired a lot of mystery fiction. I mean, that people now know Carl Hyacin, who's sort of a genre all himself.
Sure.
But,
Yeah.
But for a long time, I mean, there are all kinds of. One of the things that comes to mind is John D. MacDonald, who. I think he was mostly in the 70s, but he wrote about 70 books, and he had a hero named Travis McGee who lived on a boat called the Busted Flush in Fort Lauderdale, or something, solved mysteries. And all of the books had a color in the title, like a flash of green or something like that. So he's really sort of the godfather of Florida mysteries. But even Elmore Leonard, who wrote Get Shorty, a lot of his stuff is set in Florida. Miami by itself, is a rich territory for mysteries.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in Miami.
Yeah.
Miami has a wild history from the early days to the drug running that built South Beach, and and the money that came in the 70s, and it's crazy.
and characters,
right.
you didn't expect. The time of the cocaine cowboys, and then you had like things that weren't really the norm in other parts, like female cocaine kingpins, like ladies that were in charge of the entire cartel. Like that wasn't a thing.
It's funny because that's our generation of history of Miami, of like, that's, we're talking about the 70s, but you go back into the 50s, like, and it's totally different. It had nothing to do with like the glitz and glamour of like building up South Florida. But so anyway, I digress.
Sorry, we're excited to have you
So
here.
Joy,
Start yelling all about the history. We're like, she's here.
So I moved up to Central Florida back in 2000. And what me and my wife and Daniel, we've talked about, a lot of people from Central Florida are from different places.
Yeah.
And it's kind of created this area where everybody is from a different area.
Right.
So either from Florida or from a different state and stuff.
It's the same but different for sure.
So
Yeah.
it's hard to find someone that's lived here for a long time and knows about the history. And it's kind of like, like a lot of people are like, oh, I moved here, 20 years ago, or, but you moved here back in 1949, correct?
Yeah, when I was a kid. Yeah.
And
Where from? Where were you coming from?
Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Steel country then.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of Central Florida's history. What got you into even writing about history and researching it and knowing about it?
I studied history at Florida State, and history and English. And when I was a young person, I worked at a place. I worked in Williamsburg at the place called the Institute of Early American History.
Okay.
And so, I took courses, but then I didn't really use that for a long time. But years later, I ended up at the Sentinel. People that work in publishing, it seems to me sometimes one thing leads to another. I went to work at the Sentinel to work in their book division. This
Okay.
was in the 90s. So it was sort of an accident in some ways that I ended up at the newspaper. I was one of only a couple of people in the newsroom when I was there who hadn't had a journalism degree. So I started out in publishing. And they always had a history column at the Sentinel. I mean, going way back, and there's a whole story behind that. But a couple of great guys named Mark Andrews and Jim Robinson had been writing a history column there, and different history columns about different counties. And they had to really, they had other duties that demanded more work. It was always sort of on the side. And so I was able to sort of step in and help because I had a background in history, but not so much. I was old enough when I started it that a lot of this stuff I drew on were things that I could remember, really.
Yeah.
As a precocious kid, I guess. I mean, I could sort of remember what downtown in the 50s was like. And they had focused more on the frontier times, but when I did it, I sort of started focusing more on mid-century, mid-20th century, the 50s, the 60s, that sort of stuff.
That's an interesting connection that like your version of the column, I guess, for lack of a better way of saying it, is to me a little more exciting because you were there, or it's something that maybe you didn't necessarily
remember.
witness it, but you were
Right.
alive and are able to then go find the facts or track it down versus like getting the tall tale or getting the version of it that just
Right.
got passed down thugh the frontier.
Right, and people would tell me things. People would, write and tell me things and stories that they remembered. So I'd draw it, but it was people who were still alive.
Sure.
Some of whom have moved on now, but a lot of stuff about mid-century, the 40s, 50s, 60s, on up.
So let's talk about that because it's interesting when like Disney moved into town. It kind of put Orlando on the map. And you were around at that time. Do you remember the sentiment of Disney coming into town? Like what people were talking about? Whether I'm sure there was people that didn't want Disney here. You know what I'm saying? Like did everybody agree? Like, hey, this is good for the economy.
I think so. I mean, I think any biting and fighting probably happened about the whole thing about the whole land deal around Disney was secret. So who made money and who didn't make money? Because who didn't know to sell their land or
when
to
we
hold
post
out.
on social media about
Yeah.
Disney, we'll get people who are still bitter about that.
So explain that to
That
people
is-
that don't know
Well,
what.
The Disney Corporation, I can't remember the guy's name, but they even I think it was Donovan, was a guy who'd been in the CIA that worked for them, and that they were very secretive when they started buying up all this land. This is the size of Manhattan Island. This would have been, I guess in the early 60s. I don't know if they started any in the 50s or not. So they knew they wanted to acquire this huge piece of property. So they started, before anybody knew that their land might be really valuable for more than ranch land, down in Osceola County, they started buying up parcels of land. So it was a big secret. And
Were they doing that so that
we're doing it so they could get the land cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
if they
the
knew
other
who was involved.
the other landowners.
This is what I do at estate sales. Like I'm walking around, I'm like, is that a Joe Montana rookie card? Let's just 12
Right.
cents. I'll give you 12 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was strategic to save the money.
Strategic.
Yeah. And they
Right.
wanted as much land as possible because, if they didn't get like 100 acres here and they needed it, and they found out, this is all Disney, like that 100 acres, like I want 100 times what you offer me, right?
Yeah. But at the time, I mean, it seems so quaint now in some ways, but Walt Disney had a show that was on Sunday night. And I mean, it was not, Walt would introduce it, but then they'd show movies and stuff from the Disney and documentaries and everything, and everybody watched it. I mean, everybody, everybody watched it. So, you know, I mean, when they announced that they were gonna build Disneyland in California, that was a big deal. And then, so yeah, I think I don't think people probably realized what a big effect it was going to have. And you know, there are some historians who theorize that, and I think there's a good case for it, that actually the coming of the Martin Company to Orlando in the 50s had as big an effect as Disney, but in different ways.
That's the potato roll, people.
That's a big...
No, I made that up. It's a comedy show. I got to throw these in occasionally. We love our history, but we got to do some silly,
I know.
It's
Martin Marietta. It's a space company. When they came here, they brought all kinds of people who were engineers, highly educated. It was connected to Cape Canaveral. So it really, a lot of people came here, and it changed a lot.
We had a ton of military companies. I remember I was born in 76. I remember up the street we had Martin Marietta. Then you had Brunswick was another. DuPont. We had all these companies that were known for like either industry or war or guns or bombs or chemicals or paint or...
Well, there's so much change. And I mean, we're sitting in old Navy base, you know, the Baldwin Park was the Navy base.
Well, and before that, it was an Air Force base.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
I did not know that.
I mean, it started out in World War II as an Air Force base. I mean, Scotty has links to that. So,
yeah. Dad was in the Air Force. Yeah.
Right.
That's actually Baldwin Park is part of the reason why my dad chose here to retire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Being able to have those benefits, and then took that.
Oh, right. Oh, my God. I didn't even think about that.
You know,
wow. Yeah.
It was an air base, and it was the first air base in Orlando, and then Pine Castle, which became the
Right.
The airport eventually was the second. So anyway.
So you've seen things morph and morph and morph, and what's the greatest loss? What have we lost that you feel? If you could bring it back, what would you bring back?
That's a big question.
Well, I heard you speak, Joy.
Ronnie's.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
Everybody wants Ronnie's back.
Yeah.
Hold on,
everybody
Ronnie's?
who's sort of old enough.
Like
it was
diner style, right?
it was this great deli that was here for 40 years. Started in the 50s, closed in the 90s. It was in Colonial Plaza.
Before my time.
It was sort of a classic Jewish deli based on Wolfie's in Miami.
Okay.
But it had a bakery, and it was a fascinating place. Everybody went there. I mean, it was just kids after their prom went there. Politicians went there to make deals.
I can't visualize it, but I'm pretty sure in our current exhibit, Orlando Collected, there's Ronnie's.
I think there's
things,
something.
but
I think I remember seeing something.
I think
we have one of their big signs,
Yeah.
but it needs some refurbishment.
it's one of the places. It's just one of those lost sort of centers of community that people always are of a certain age, old. Think about. But I do think, that, I mean, we have so many great restaurants and things, but it's really hard to find that many institutions where people are like, we took Mom out here for Mother's Day and we're still going. I mean, that's hard to find.
I had one loaded and it went away. I'm from DeLand. So, I mean, I was born in Gainesville, but only because I was premature. My parents lived in DeLand. No, Shands was a specialty hospital, but we had Holiday House.
Oh, yeah.
And with Easter coming around.
We used to have Holiday House here.
You did.
We'd always go and get the lamb. That was a big deal.
Oh, with the Mangeli. This was my connection to Orlando, thinking that, and the Cooks family and that family, and I knew them personally, and they all fought, and some of them took Holiday House.
There's still one in DeLand.
There's Cooks, yeah.
Which is... They still have the lamb.
It's close, it's very similar, but yeah, that was Holiday House is like that was and when it went away and those little chalky mints, I was like, oh, God bless you, Holiday House. Bye. See ya.
Joy, I heard you do a talk about Winter Park and about people wanting to move to Winter Park because of the architecture and the old houses. And then when they move, they demolish them and build McMansions because they're like, these rooms are small. Of course they are. It's
Why
built
is this house so creaky
in the
and
30s.
old?
And then
I had one of the old
and I see it
off of Corinne. I had one of the old officer quarters, the little
really?
a little 990 bunk. bungalow.
my
Favorite
gosh.
house. My favorite house.
You know what got me joy
That's so
is
cool.
like I live down Lakemont on the Castleberry side, so I come down
knows.
and right next to the YMCA there was like a historic plaque in an old house there, and they demolished everything. Like, and it's funny because I thought that it was a historic site because it looked like a gravestone almost, and it made
terrible.
And it was kind of like a small statue on the side of the road on Lakemont, and then they tore it all down and they're building a McMansion. And then I was like, man, like this is what happens where slowly they start taking history away, and then you start taking the history of Orlando away, and then people forget, generations.
Yeah.
And I was like, nothing.
Where's
looks
the
at-
balance, or how
Yeah.
do you balance that when you want to protect some things, but you also
You're
get a lot of
You're
people.
asking big questions.
Sorry, Joey.
We're just excited to have you in
That's a
here.
big
Like
question.
when
No.
we have real adults in here, because
I-
normally we just make fart jokes all day, and we get like a smart real adult in
Hey,
here.
we can tell fart
Scotty
jokes.
brings us his
We can
favorite
still-
smart people, and then I'm like, "There's smart people here. Ask them all the good questions."
No, but that's a huge question. What do you keep? Isn't it a question for all of us? What do you keep? What do you get rid of?
Yeah.
It's what do I treasure? What do I keep? But it is, I think, a particular ironic quality of a town, say like Winter Park, that's based on historic charm, where people do move in and then, buy an old place and then decide that they need something that's 40,000 square feet
Yeah,
or
they do.
something,
Like,
instead.
I always joke about it with my wife, but I know people that move to the brick roads with the big older homes, and then they're mad about the roads.
yeah.
And I'm like, I hate the roads too. I wouldn't buy one of those. Like you got. If you don't like that, you don't buy that.
I like
but
the way it looks. I don't want to drive them.
pave over it. It's like no,
Right.
don't
My
pave.
Tesla's too heavy.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for historic preservation, so
Sure.
it's sort of dear to my heart. But I think it's when you save a building, there's hardly any. I don't know anybody who's ever regretted saving a great building or a great
Yeah.
Or
a good way of putting that.
sometimes you can't save everything, and you have to make hard choices. I mean, one now in downtown Orlando, I'm thinking it's real near the library. There's a 10-story building that began in the 1920s as the Masonic Lodge, and it's probably going to have to go in order to make a new entrance to Lake Eola. And but there's a really distinguished house right next to it, the Spanish Mediterranean
Oh,
house,
yeah.
that I
That's
would
such a cool house.
argue for trying to keep.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you have to make hard choices.
It's cool that we have people like you, though, and others that will actually try to put light on these things, because if we don't put the light on them, the History Center, there's our big
Oh,
plug. But if we don't talk about these sort of things, then they do go to the wayside. We've learned so
yeah.
much just by working with you, Scotty, everybody at the History Center, on just some of the things that we need to be a little more, a little more mindful to,
Right.
because again, it's, I don't know, the collective it's such a cool thing to,
Yeah. And so, Joey,
I'm word salading a little bit. But.
There's the iconic Central Florida cities that everybody knows, but then there's outside surrounding places that people don't know the history behind, let's say Winter Garden.
Yeah.
And I know you've written about Winter Garden a lot, and it's people oh, I know where Winter Garden is, but they don't know the history behind it. So could you tell us anything about surrounding areas? Yeah.
Oh, well, Winter Garden's fascinating and sort of has benefited from, really not, there was a time when the main street there was just pretty deserted and everything, but it hadn't attracted developers anyway, so it was sort of a happy accident in some ways that that little Main Street area got saved. But a couple of things. It was the biggest citrus capital for a long time, and there are a couple of railroad stations there, but there was, I think maybe in the 40s, more citrus was shipped out of Winter Garden than any place in the nation.
It was all orange groves.
It was
right?
the center. It was one of the big centers of the of the citrus industry. A lot of the families there had groves and packing houses. And
Almost
that
all
sort
my
of thing.
posters, my daughter's, when she she's 9 now, but her room originally was all done in old Florida posters. And
Oh, cool.
And I would like find them online and then illegally print them at Kinko's, which you're not supposed to do.
Don't tell Kinko's.
But most of them were from like a Winter Garden area, and
Yeah.
you'd see the family names, and
You'll
like
see that-
they were all from that area, and it was big business, big bright orange colors in
The citrus labels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a
beautiful.
whole
Yeah.
wonderful source of
So
art.
beautiful.
With the labels that they used on the crates and would sort of function as an ad.
Yeah, and
But
they got spicier too. Like you could
Oh,
see
yeah.
the change, and then they started adding nothing
Yeah.
too far, but they started adding like ladies with
Ladies.
like a little, like a 2 inches of midriff showing.
Right,
I'm
right.
like, whoa, seriously,
Yeah.
and they're in a bikini holding
Oh,
the
yeah.
orange crate, and I'm like, whoa, what are you doing
Or
here?
they,
Oh,
had
yeah.
or they had the pirates and they're talking about booty and things.
Yeah. They tried
Scantily clad mermaids.
Yeah. They just
Yeah.
kind of ramp it up a little. What's gonna sell these oranges?
Did you know the citrus? Do you know about the citrus disease that's affecting all our citrus here in Florida? And, like,
know.
I do, and I don't know much about it, but I heard it's just devastating.
yeah, my buddy the wizard said that
It's worse.
in
Yeah.
like a couple decades, no more citrus will ever be produced in Florida because the disease is taken over, and it's all going to be in like Mexico,
Why the
California.
hell did you bring up that sad fact? You're
I don't
bumming
know.
me out.
It's some sort of citrus
well,
disease.
I
that is
think it's
affecting
called the
trees.
greening or something. I don't
Greening.
know.
That sounds. That
And they
sounds
can't
like
get-
a
Sounds
horrible
like it
horror
does like a
movie.
horror movie.
And
doesn't it?
they can't get rid of it, and it's just affecting, and it's shutting down the citrus.
I thought you were going to ask
economy here.
about Anita Bryant when she and
Oh.
Disney did Orange Bird, and she was on the Citrus Council.
Yeah.
And I have the record of that.
Oh, do you?
In my daughter's room. It's all part of the theme.
Oh, my
And then we
gosh.
did a little more digging into Anita and some of
She's not.
Yeah,
some of
she was
Anita-
not-
her
she was
thoughts.
not cool.
And she's
Yeah.
extremely anti-gay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Like
Anita,
not a good person.
Orange Bird is great.
Orange Bird's
Bird's
fine.
awesome.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know this. Orange Bird is
Orange
gay.
Bird is his own
Yeah, yeah.
person.
He's gay.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
like- yeah. But
He's
Anita
gay.
Bryant, not
He's-
good. He is. He's a little orange man with a little green.
He's made several statements against her.
Yeah, he really has. I'm glad he's outspoken, that Orange Bird. He's like, yeah, I took too many pictures with this woman.
Orange Bird you can find in our exhibits.
Oh, that's awesome.
Two different places, I think.
Yeah, like you did come to the right place, because if you're gonna start talking about Florida history, we're happy to
Well,
have you.
we should talk about what are you
wanna hit
going
her
to be
book?
talking about for your
What am I going to
yeah.
be talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah.
Well, it's an illustrated talk. I mean, one of the things I really, when I wrote my column in the Sentinel, I think focused as much on the picture that was going to go with it as what it was going to say, and tried to really loved researching pictures. So I'm going to show pictures. Aim to show 150 pictures to go with 150 years of Orlando's history since its incorporation as a town. Starting, early on, and pictures and people who were influential, try to sort of spin the story of Orlando through these images.
I love it. I love the one that's even on the History Center website, where it's like it appears to be something that you would be doing, just sitting on the back of an alligator, but it appears to be.
On the back of the alligator.
That's the photo that was used for out in front of the History
Yeah.
Center. We have a statue, and that's the photo that
Oh,
was
no
used.
way.
Yeah,
for
we'll
that.
spend it. We'll spend a little time on that. And I've been trying to think if there was any more iconic photo. I mean, it's from the 1880s, but I can't think of one that's and I love the story of the guy who took it, who was named the photographer, which not that many people know, but it's a guy named Stanley Morrow, who really came from the West. He photographed most of his career. He photographed Native Americans and battle scenes and the West, and came through here and took all these great pictures of Orlando, because it was a frontier too. It was like
right.
it was not that much different from where he went in North Dakota and other places in a lot of ways.
And it's interesting because I feel like younger generations, like my sons, because of AI and all these fake photos, like they'll see a photo from the 1800s and immediately just think it's fake. Because there's so many doctored fake photos now.
Yeah.
That it's like it doesn't even seem real.
Facebook got me the other day with Florida history. Cypress Garden, the Florida shaped pool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was out of Cypress Gardens. The
Yeah.
Florida-shaped pool. I thought that was fake. I was like, "What? That's
No,
nuts.
that was real.
That's
No, yeah, I
100%
know.
real." And then
That
they
was real. Made
refurbished
for
it.
Esther Williams.
Yeah. Oh, that was beautiful. But
Yeah,
the photos,
right.
if you look at one now, you're like, well, how the hell they keep it on the side of the swamp without all the
Yeah.
concrete
Apparently had
crumbling?
one. We just had that tournament at Rio Pinar Golf, and apparently they had a Florida-shaped
Yeah, they had a
pool at
Florida-shaped pool,
one time,
too.
but they filled it in for some reason.
Oh,
But
man.
that's such a
amazing.
fascinating
Florida-shaped pools are
thing of,
awesome.
Yeah.
AI and that whole thing about your kids not knowing about what's a real historic photo and the ability to sort of create them. I was never that much of a fan of colorizing old photos for that reason, but I mean there are certain things where it's good, but
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't either. It's funny, like I'm all in on the AI now because I use it to, make my life a little easier here at the studio. But colorizing films, or when who was doing that at the time? Oh, it was what's his name
Oh,
in
yeah.
Turner. Turner.
Oh, yeah, they would do like colorized version of It's
Yeah,
a Wonderful
yeah.
Life
I remember that.
or something like
I
that.
think my dad threw a fit. He was
Yeah.
very angry.
Well, it also just looked weird. It
just looked
it's
weird.
Not yeah.
Yeah.
It's because it's not real color, right?
I
It's
agree with
just-
you.
Yeah.
Joy, is there anything about Central Florida and its history that you find other people find super interesting that they didn't know? Like any facts that people don't know and like it's not talked about. Anything come to mind?
Well, this sort of brings us back to what we started with was the crime thing, but I'm finding increasingly that we were talking about Miami, which a lot of people do know about, but Orlando had its share of sort of organized crime too, going back, much less sort of flamboyant, but we had a organized crime here led by the local guy who was the leader was named Harlan Blackburn.
Okay.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was sort of-
There's a name.
Harlan
That's
Blackburn.
isn't the name
I'm
you couldn't make up
Harlan
as a character
Blackburn.
yeah, he was, and they actually called it. I mean, I don't know if they called it at the time, but historically, historians call it the Cracker Mafia, which is a whole side topic too
Right.
about
Sounds
the
like
use
a-
of the word cracker for Florida, not as an epithet.
Conservative
Yeah.
rap group.
As Florida, but yeah, and so there was this illegal lottery here called Bolita, and where people bet numbers. People bet numbers every week, and I'm talking 50s, 40s, 50s.
And like in the Tampa area too, they
Oh
would do
yeah.
that.
So people would bet on numbers. The numbers. The Bolita meant little ball, and they would they would draw little balls with numbers on them. So
This is similar to the Florida lottery.
it's very
then.
similar to the Florida lottery. So, but it was.
We stole the Florida lottery
But
from the
that's pretty
Spanish.
crazy.
Is that, it was called Bolita at one point.
Oh
and
yeah,
we just stole
absolutely.
It. We're just like here.
and so the mob and everything were they had their hands in all of that.
crazy.
It sounds like another book here.
Yeah. Oh, plug your
we-
book.
we should-
I do talk about it in the
Plug
secrets.
your
book.
of-
Oh, you do?
yes,
Okay.
yes. In the secrets of the Flamingo Cafe.
Yeah, Secrets of
Okay.
the Flamingo Cafe. Oh, that looks good, man. Good branding. My mom would be all over
I
that.
our
got my
friend Rick did
flamingo
that.
glasses.
Our friend Rick did the cover. So
Put my glasses on.
Oh, Rick has been on the show.
yeah, you said Rick has been on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've had Rick on.
My
here.
friend Rick did the cover. So
Oh, fantastic.
So, what is the secrets of Flamingo Cafe about?
He can't read.
It's about an artist who moves here from New York. She thinks she's not going to stay very long. Her aunt has died. Turns out her aunt probably didn't die in an accident. She remembers when in her youth she tangled her own aunt tangled with the Ku Klux Klan. There's a young boy in it who's selling Bolita tickets. And
Okay, all right.
Okay,
yeah,
this
so
sounds
he's-
awesome.
Yeah.
He's what they call a runner. He comes and takes your bets every week.
I'm familiar with
Yeah,
the
he's
runner.
I'm familiar with the runner.
He's addicted with gambling. No, I'm not. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding.
So-
They still
100%.
have runners, by the
Yeah.
way, and it's what
And,
in sports gambling it's what you call people that will go and bet for you at different sports books.
Oh,
You send a runner.
Well, all these folks end up at a place called the Flamingo Cafe, which actually existed in Orlando, not far from here at all. It was on the real place was on Colonial Drive, sort of near where the Olive Garden is now, except on the other side. I mean, like right near where McGuire comes into Colonial.
Okay.
So we're just not very far from here. That was the city limits then. So this big nightclub opened in the 29 and went on for a long time, but it had gambling in the back room, sort of secret casino gambling in the back room. So I mean, the version in my book is highly glamorized in essence and run by a much more glamorous owner than in real life, but it was a real place.
That's
with real
awesome.
gambling in the back room.
Yeah, I love this, man. This is gritty.
Joy, would you mind if I told you about some of Florida history that I know about it? That is ridiculous.
No, this is what makes
Okay, so
all right.
so
And
my
she can fact check you.
That's what makes it fun.
Feel free
So,
to say
my
if
gr-
anything you hear is BS.
my
you can just yell it.
my grandfather grew up in Miami, went to Miami High, and like ended up getting trained for World War II in Florida or whatever. And so he bought a place off the Loop Road in the Everglades, and between Tamiami and Miami and Naples. And in the back, it was these stairs. And I remember as a kid growing up, I used to go out there every weekend, and they used to like Al Capone stairs from his hideout. And it turns out some historian came down from the college and
The college of fake stories.
You can look up Al Capone stairs off Loop Road, Florida.
He also has Pretty Boy Floyd's top hat. They got them all.
And they verified it was
I
old
think this
hideout.
one is true. I think this one is true.
In the Everglades,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because tying back to mobsters and stuff. Like there were a lot of mobsters back in Florida, and like this is pre-cocaine
This
cowboys.
is a nice
obviously.
place to hide out. I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
Because it was like kind of a a swamp wilderness that you could go to hide. It was like the Australia of the United States. It was just like
sort of.
you would run there, and then also my wife's grandfather. And this is bizarre too. Like he worked for the Deltona Corporation and then built Marco Island. His name was Herb Savage, and it was basically developed Deltona, and then the Deltona Corporation developed Marco Island.
I didn't know that.
And then
It was
basically
the Mackle brothers, right?
yeah, the Malcolm brothers, and then it was like the even like 1950s
Like in
and
Deltona,
60s.
there you have the road Elkham. That's Mackle. Backwards,
Yeah.
right?
They had Providence. They had
Wow,
the-
that's cool.
The same names. It's
He
funny,
taught me all of this. I thought he used to. He's a liar most of the time. I'm joking. No, he taught me all of this.
Me and my wife randomly end up living in Deltona.
True
We had
story.
no idea about her grandfather's.
Didn't she start asking her grandma or something?
Well, no, they were at the time. They're like, "Oh, you live in Deltona? Well, we built that." I'm like, "You built Deltona? It stinks." But at that back,
that.
it was all like Marco Island. I was like, "Why did you make it like Marco Island? They're way better."
Marco Island.
Yeah.
There's a
paradise.
There's a reason Dog the Bounty Hunter didn't move to Deltona. He moved to Marco Island like a month ago.
But there's, so many interesting places in Florida, and like the history. And it's funny because when I was young, it kind of takes age to appreciate history.
It does.
It's like when I was in my 20s, I didn't even come close to appreciating it much. Now in my 40s,
Yeah.
and then like I've been here in Central Florida for 25 years, and then I'm telling people like I remember when UCF was just a bunch of trailers. And they were building buildings everywhere. I went there in 2000. I'm like, it was nothing compared to what it is now.
Right, yeah.
And then, like, young students are like, all right, old man. They're like, we realize everything starts from nothing. but it's like, and then, people tell me about Cimarron, and it was just like cow pastures. Basically from the airport on, it didn't even get developed. And it's like, and
I can't even imagine that.
and these are old pictures that you've had, you from your book, History Photos of Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
Like that. When you see those photos, it's almost like you can't even believe they're real. When
Yeah.
you're like, here's a picture of Mills 50 back in the 30s or whatever, and it's just like, wow, it's crazy.
And
Yeah.
again, you're going to try to do 150 photos, at
Right.
and so you can be a part of something like this, and you can go and check it out, sit and watch the photos, think about history, think about why you should love it, like Tom and I do.
And so, Joy, is there anything that like a particular story about do you remember when they built the Citrus Bowl? And like, was there, because it seems like, when was that built? In the 70s?
I don't know
like
much
Camping World now,
Yeah,
but
I don't know much about any of that. I just remember it's always been here.
It's always been. I mean, I can remember when it used to be. It used to be called the Tangerine Bowl. I can. It just kept getting bigger, but it was always there. I mean, going way back. But no, that is not. I am not that versed on that.
It just seems
that
like
stadium.
it never really did.
Except I can remember going to games there.
It was like
remember.
tangerine, citrus, and then it just kind of like.
The first Tangerine Bowl was like in the 40s, 49 or something like that. I mean, the first, I think it was a charity event sponsored by the Elks or something like that. But that stadium, and tiny version of it, was always there. And anyhow, I can remember as a cheerleader running, decorating the goalposts back in odd 8.
Wow, man!
I didn't, decorate in odd 8 or whatever.
Yeah.
For games there, Boone Edgewater and that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's amazing. I'm partial to the soccer stadium now. I'm telling Scotty. I like that because that's a manageable size. I enjoy that.
Yeah, that one.
Go Pride. Go Pride.
Yeah,
Marta. Yeah.
Well, we have a hell of a team, man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and Seb Hines. Shout out to Seb, great coach.
Yeah,
we love our
absolutely.
Seb Hines.
Yeah.
And again, Joey is going to be talking April 27th at the History Center from 2 to 3.
Go be a part of it. Check it out.
That's a free program. We just ask that you register in advance for it.
Okay, just have to go online and register at thehistorycenter.org.
Scotty, you always bring us the coolest people, man. Thank you so much.
What can I say?
And
I
Joy,
like
it's
to
so
connect
nice
the
to meet
dots.
you.
It's very nice to meet
Yeah.
you guys.
Well,
I
we
love it.
We didn't, he always brings us like cool people. Hey, she's gonna talk to you about some cool history. Like we're all in for stuff like that because
You all know a lot.
Well, this is because of Scotty.
yes, because I wasn't lying to you. It's because of
Ever
everything
since
we
our
have
relationship with the History Center.
No, but while you're talking about your family stuff and your own stories, it's cool.
Well, his grandfather
I like
also
to talk
told
about
him he
my
was Native American.
Oh, you
Like
know about
every
that.
good white person in
Yeah,
Florida
yeah.
tells all their white people in their family that they're Native American. Everybody does.
My
that.
I named my son after me.
He has a Native American name.
My middle name is Chisholm, and I did a presentation in elementary school where I was like, my great
You probably wore a feather, didn't you? You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to wear a feather.
Was Joseph Chisholm from the Chisholm Trail, and then my elementary school teacher was like, "Oh yeah, it must be real." It was before anybody could verify anything, and then
No, your son's gonna go up there. I'm related to Black Panther or something. It's just you can't do that, man.
And you know what it was? It's DNA testing. We took a DNA test, and I'm like, no Native American. Yeah, I'm from Europe, like every other white dude.
Then I argued to him because when you look it up, and I actually went to the house, the Chief Van house that's in Georgia. There was
my last name is Van,
and there was a chief that was a Native American. He wasn't truly Native American. He was half Native American, Irish.
Yeah, right.
So,
he's half, but
so I'm thinking that maybe you could have been on that other side.
Well, that's true. That's true even of Osceola, the famous warrior Osceola. I mean, he was part Scottish, I think.
But yeah, and it's funny because ever since then, my whole life I believed I was some Native American heritage, and then
He has a
I don't think it
tattoo.
is. I'm none of it.
He has a tattoo of a giant
Listen,
two
I
horses,
heard-
Palominos racing on the back of his back.
That happened to me too, because there was a story in my family that on my father's side that somebody way back had married a Native American, and I was disappointed too with the DNA, but I heard. And I'm not going to remember this right, that it may be that the DNA tests they do now just don't go far back enough to capture
That's
that.
what you
I
said.
don't know.
That's what you said.
Well, that's what we all think because we want
He
to
told
believe.
me he was so authentic Native American that to test it, you can't. It's untestable.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I've heard that too.
Yeah.
But part of the history of why so many people in Florida had Native American background was there was a time where the people just told that that because
Yeah.
it was like
Because it's cooler than being white.
yeah, but also it was like it's bravery and rebellion, and it was like having Native American blood was like considered like you were more brave,
You're more exotic.
and like you didn't follow the government as much. You know, it was like you were more
Yeah.
rebellious, a renegade.
Yeah.
You know,
A
it was like-
renegade.
so it
Yeah,
was
I like
like
that.
you told people like, I have Native American, and then all of a sudden it just after
You're an Indian
generations,
outlaw.
yeah.
Part Cherokee and Choctaw.
And
My baby, she's a Chippewa.
yeah.
She's
But
a
anyway,
one of a kind.
Joy,
Tim
thank
McGraw.
you so much for
Okay.
coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you all. And
Yeah.
tomahawk chop.
You can't do that nowadays.
Joy, oh my God, Joy, what have you done?
I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
Go
no,
Braves,
no.
go Braves.
No,
Go
on
Braves.
this
I'm sorry.
show you can do.
I went to Florida State. What can I
Yeah,
do?
Yeah, she's allowed. She's allowed.
They still do it there. I was
Canceled right before you.
Oh, they
Canceled.
do. Kansas City does
I
it.
get your show canceled right before.
No, it doesn't
You're
exist,
fine,
Joy.
you're fine.
We're all
You should have heard
amongst
what we were
friends.
doing before you got here. You're totally fine, Joy. All
Scotty,
right,
thanks so
Joy,
much.
you
Oh,
guys
thank
are the
you.
best.
Yeah.
History Center,
all.
go there, support, become a member, support, and
Yeah.
go to the website and see if you can fit in some events.
And also remember, every third Thursday, you can go to the History Center for free.
Yeah, 5 to 9.
And if you want to check out the History Center for free, but my recommendation, just become a member.
Just sign up.
Because you have access to all these great things and talks.
Well, then you
and-
won't miss out. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
you'll always know that you're ready to go. So.
Yeah, and the Orlando Collected is going on right now. It's 150 items based on 150 years of
Yep.
We have items?
Orlando. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there
and
as
you
well.
are curators, so is Joy.
Yeah,
so
Joy's in there. You can. I bet hers is way better than ours.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Corporate Time.
Welcome back to A Corporate Time.
Let's do some voicemail.
Yes, voicemail messages. You can leave one. A couple ways to do that. 1-844-TOMNDAN. That's our little vanity number. You could also text that. But I'm going to mess up the texting, how to text it. What do you text Tom and Dan to it, right? Or BDM.
Yeah, if you text just BDM, those three letters, to 844 Tom and Dan, it'll text you back and say you are now. And you could also text some other thing. It'll tell you to stop the text if you ever want to stop. But anyway,
Why would you even tell them that?
If-
You're oversharing. Why would you tell them
people
how
over
to
there, I
stop?
want to stop one day.
No, but they didn't say that. Let them get hooked first.
Yeah, and so we don't send that many texts, but we usually send texts talking about upcoming
Events,
parties, events, or new merch or something.
Yeah.
So it's you'll probably get one once a month, maybe, but that's a way you could directly communicate with us. You can also
Indeed.
text us too, which Tracy will get, and she'll let us know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. You can also text our personal numbers at this
Yeah,
point.
we've
Yeah,
given
yeah.
them out so many
Yeah,
times.
yeah,
You know, in fact, that might be one right there. It is a picture of a penis. All right, let's try this one right here.
Hey guys, I was just listening to your ACT about the scan and go at Sam's Club, and Tom was talking about discounts. And I don't know, maybe somebody put this in the chat or put it on the BDM page, or you know what? Never mind. They probably already told you.
Now I played that because I'm like, why would
What
you
is
do
it?
that? Why? I don't know
didn't
the
tell
answer.
me.
They didn't tell us. So you called in and you let your lack of confidence ruin my little factoid tidbit. I needed that factoid.
Yeah, we have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm lost. Does Sam's Club, when you do a scan and go, does it give you coupons? Does it give you money off? Now there's no way of finding out.
Well, thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah.
You wasted your life.
Yeah, why would you do that? Why not just finish saying, yes, you do get, coupons, or no, you do not get coupons. It's the same amount of words and syllables as, somebody probably already do.
Or say someone probably already told you, but you do get discounts. You could have just added it. Oh, you ruined it.
Yeah, you really made us mad. I hope you're happy, sir. I hope you're happy.
Hey there, Tom and Dan. Hey guys, it's Kenny. Y'all were making fun of the fact that with SeaWorld, you buy a day, get the entire year free. They've been doing that for quite a while now. I think about almost 15 years or so.
Is that a good thing?
No, but they'll still do it, right? No,
I don't know.
No way.
He's saying they do it.
But when they first started doing it, they didn't really have security measures. Now you have to affiliate your ID with it, so they know that the original ticket is affiliated with the annual pass. But back in the day, you just had to show proof that you bought a ticket. So me and an ex-girlfriend would go at the end of the day. They didn't charge for parking, so we would go there. And then as people were leaving, we would say, hey, we had a vacation here. We accidentally threw away our tickets. We wanted to commemorate, our time at SeaWorld. Can we just get your tickets so we have a souvenir? And because, they're just tourists, they're like, yeah, not a problem. So they would give us their tickets. We would immediately take those tickets, go to guest services, and be like, oh, we forgot to get our, annual passes, so can we go ahead and do that? And we would basically scam our way to free annual pass at SeaWorld. We did that for like 3 or 4 years before they finally started doing IDs affiliated with it. But anyway, just wanted to share that story with you guys. Love you. Bye.
What I heard is you're a bad person, and don't think that we don't look past when you say ex-girlfriend. I still think you're gay. No, I don't think that.
Fraud was so much easier before the digital age.
But there is digital fraud. I think that's what dumb old men say. So you're an analog fraud man. You're an analog fraudman. But digital fraudmen would never say the statement you just said of it's harder now.
Well,
they'd say it's easier now because they're digital fraudmen.
I'm talking about
an old man fraudster.
yeah. I'm old man fraud.
Why can't you accept being old?
Like
old man fraud.
There was a time where.
What's your favorite fraud?
Well, there was okay.
Because this is your favorite
ID
topic
fraud,
in the world, right? Is this your favorite topic in the world?
So I've told the story a million times, but I cheated on the SATs when I was in high school with my buddy the Wizard. He's
very smart Asperger's.
He's got Asperger's,
Yeah.
so he's like
very high IQ.
like Elon.
Yeah, he's got a non-functioning swastika IQ. He does.
Yeah. Like you think he's a D-head, then you're like, oh, it's just Asperger's. Anyway, so he's really
but he
good
loves
at tests.
all of his children. I want to make that. He loves all of his children.
He's a good dad.
And there's no woke mind virus, as Elon says.
So, but there used to be a time where you can go into the DMV and you can go get a Florida ID, and
I have to do that. The real ID.
And down in Miami, at least, you go into this room and you sit down and you show them like, all right, here's your information. I want a Florida ID, fill out some paperwork. And then they're like, okay, now go wait for the picture. And then you go to a different room for the picture. So when I went to the different room, I remember me and the Wizard just changed hoodies. Not that it mattered anyway, but I
like that you changed hoodies.
I went outside and he came back in and he waited for my name and they're like,
you weren't nervous at all? Or
Thomas?
Can you pull up a memory of that?
Here's the thing. There's just the DMV employees. They don't care. They don't even speak English, but even back then.
I think I was probably stupid enough to think, at least at our DMV, that somehow it'd be connected to the cops and I'd be
no.
Get in trouble somehow.
And then I remember he came out with a real Florida ID with his picture and my information. That's how he went and took the SATs for me. But then he had it was a legitimate ID with his photo. Like it wasn't fake.
So you never So you really never cheated the SAT people. You really just cheated the DMV people.
Yeah, well, also the SAT people because
it was an authentic license.
yeah,
you
but
see
it wasn't
what I'm
me,
saying?
though.
Do you see what I'm saying? It was an authentic license.
But that stuff happened a lot, and then they didn't keep your picture. It's funny because right then was that year in 2000 was when they started keeping your photo. But before then, there was no database where they kept your photo. So that was the first year. So my prior driver's license photo wasn't kept, so they couldn't see that it was a different person.
That's pretty awesome.
So, but then that came back.
It's a perfect crime.
Let's say 8 years later, when I changed my driver's license over, that was a problem. I was in Central Florida, and I forgot. I remembered me and John doing this, but I didn't think that they stored his photo. And when I changed my photo, or like had my driver's license renewal, they called me back and they're like, hey, we got a problem here. You're saying you're Thomas Van. There's a different photo of a different person, and then I look and there's the Wizard sitting there, and then I'm like, what? I've never seen this person in my life.
Yeah.
And then
he looks like he scams on his SAT.
Then they were like, it's probably Miami. They got a lot of fraud down there.
We had fraud this morning. You were calling about fraud. There's fraud everywhere.
Although
you're talking about how you want good old analog fraud, this morning you were on the phone handling digital fraud, and we were getting BF'd. They were coming for our money this morning.
What was weird is that is some sort of mistake by GoDaddy. Okay, well, I'll tell you.
Don't talk about it.
So all of a sudden I'm paying our credit card bill, and then I'm just scanning the transactions, and I'm like, $1,000. What is this? GoDaddy.
Yeah, he does a quick scan.
And then I thought
You thought I was giving money to webcam girls again, didn't you?
No. I was like, oh, this must be for 10 years of Tom and Dan.
$100 a year? Are you crazy? I ain't paying $100 a year for a URL.
I thought that the $100 a year wasn't egregious, $10 a month or whatever, less than that.
I think the
$8 a
most we paid is $7.99 a month for TomandDan.com.
Okay, well, I'm close to $100 a year. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
no,
80.
You were saying $1,000 for 10 years. Well, $100 a year.
Yeah,
right,
that's what I meant.
Right,
So then I was like, oh, this may be right. Then I asked you, and you're like, nah, this is wrong.
Yeah, that's way too much money.
But it said the thing is, like, usually when fraud.
No, I looked at it. It was authentic. Like, it was 100% the real transaction.
So GoDaddy charged us $1,000 for nothing, but it had to have been something.
No, because they said they had no record of the transaction. But then he's like, yeah, that's us, though, right?
Yeah. So then I'm like, it's legitimate.
Well, let me
like,
ask
it's
you a
not
question. Did it happen or not?
Well, they charged a card. Yeah. But it came from GoDaddy. The company actually charged it. I think because they said like, oh, this is us. But they're like, go ahead and dispute it.
You don't think that when you hung up, that guy was like, oh, crap.
No.
And we don't have our money back yet, right?
He was laughing like a D-head. If you were talking to him, you would have cursed him out because he was laughing that we didn't know anything about our website or what the
I would have. I'd be like, well, why are we supposed to know this? Your customer service. Either help us or not.
Like, who knows about like their PIN number for their GoDaddy account or whatever. Anyway.
Oh, when they're laughing because like, look at how unprepared you are. Oh yeah, I don't let any of that passive aggressive slide.
No.
Give me your manager. I'm about to get you fired today, bitch.
To me, it's nothing.
It probably should be a nothing, but just give me your manager. I'm gonna get you fired today. Let's do this one right here. Do you know what Postmates is?
Mm-hmm.
Yo, BDM Neil here. You guys are talking about the Postmates and all that stuff, and Daniel said that he just went to sleep hungry, and it just made me die laughing. But the Postmates. Daniel reminded me. So when Postmates first came out, I remember this would have been like 2018, 2017, or something like that. They would do these promos. It would be almost like every day or every couple of days. They would do these promos where you would just get free food. And it would be delivered for free.
Yeah, I remember this because I remember thinking that Postmates was more of a West Coast thing because I used to hear like a lot of comedians and a lot of like podcasters talk about it in California. It wasn't really like an East Coast thing. And then when we finally got it, I knew exactly what he was talking about. Yeah, I used to get inundated with this and it seemed too good to be true. It was like free food and free delivery. It's like, why would I not do that?
Well,
I didn't trust it.
There was a local food delivery service here
in
Central
Florida.
Florida.
They advertised with me when I was on the Monsters.
Yeah, that's where I remember it from.
Yeah, what
was
were they
it?
called?
Grubhub?
No, it was No, it wasn't DoorDash. It wasn't Grubhub.
But it was a local, similar to Uber Eats or DoorDash.
Yeah.
Where like you ordered and then a company delivered, and it was like revolutionary at the time. It was pre-national thing.
And I had the ad. I remember doing the ads for it.
Yeah. And then and a lot of these things happen, but they don't have the marketing power to become national. So like the idea was swirling around. Everybody had it.
Yeah.
Some people think like, Uber Eats or DoorDash invented this idea.
Of it?
And just it's something. I was talking to a listener the other day. He's developing an app to try to be a national app. It's a good idea, but so was Halsey, which is another company that we advertise for. But their problem was, and the owner told me, he's like, we got a bunch of investors to try to push out the marketing, but we couldn't grab hold of a big enough market to to make it last. And a lot of times you need, like, if you're Uber Eats or DoorDash, you have millions and millions of dollars of investors to get it out there, and they do those promotions like free delivery so that people get used to it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like
can't live without it.
same thing with Uber. Uber lost money and that's their business plan. Like their plan is like, okay, for 8 years we're gonna lose.
Yeah, we
money.
got to normalize this so you can't live without it.
And then once it becomes normalized, $1 billion. Like, but for the first 8 years, we're going to be operating a loss because we're going to put so much money into marketing, and then it's going to be so cheap that society can't not use it. It's going to kill the taxis, and and that's what happened. And then we're going to slowly increase it, and because it's going to be the only thing. Once it kills all the other transportation services, then that's when we have the whole market.
Now. Europe has hybrids, Uber taxis now.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting.
They have to do something with all these taxis.
Yeah, they don't know what to do. So it's like, well, Uber, they just sold all the taxis to Uber, and Uber's like, we'll do it.
Yeah,
but they're Uber taxis, and you get an Uber taxi, and they don't have their car anymore. It's a fleet of cars. It's weird, dude.
I mean, they're doing this because as soon as it's going to be automated vehicles. Yeah.
That's what I
no drivers.
Thought, because you got to control the fleet. You can't have personal cars and have automation.
And then once it's
automated, some guy stinky Corolla. Yeah. He's playing the best of Maroon 5 that one time we were in. It smelled like crap.
God, now that I think about it, like Uber would be a really good investment now. Because once it goes full automation and they get the fleet themselves, then they make all the money. They don't have to worry about it sharing.
They'll cut drivers out hard.
There would be no more drivers. and then they could run.
I wonder if they'll have to let them down slowly because of the amount that they have, right? Because you're not going to be able to get that many cars on. So when are you going to start pulling back? And then making it less.
Well, first, every state every state has different laws and stuff. So, I know Arizona, they were testing it there, and so
California, you can do some stuff.
They have to slowly get in.
Las
same
Vegas,
thing with Uber.
You can do some stuff.
Uber, it took a while for Uber to even get into every state. Remember?
I didn't think we were going to get it here. I remember coming back and railing on Orlando because Philly had it. And I didn't know that it was from places like Philly and Seattle. We'd been to Seattle. And I was like, why do these big cities have it? And because they're big cities.
Well, and also the local mirrors and the other taxi service, they're lobbying against keeping them out. You know what I'm saying? And then, but then the people like you were like, we want it here, and they put pressure on the politicians.
But I don't really want it here anymore. I changed my mind.
Well, it's you can't put it back in the box.
Nope, it's done.
Cannot. And then as soon as it's automated, that's when they make the real money. Because they don't have to pay anybody. Well, then you have to rely on drivers or anything like that.
And then I feel like it becomes safer, too, because you don't have creepos. And that's the number one complaint that I get from people. It isn't the ride. It's just my driver talked too much or my driver was a creep. That's the complaints I get. So if you take that out of play, I'm not talking about me. I've never complained about an Uber, ever. Get in the Uber, drive. It was okay. But I'm talking it'll be fail safe. You won't have to worry about putting your daughter in there. I mean, maybe the robot crashes, but she ain't going to get raped by the robot driver.
Well, the person's going to be way more dangerous than the automation.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And then I think that the creep aspect is probably blown out of proportion.
I'm sure it is.
It's
still a stigma, though, that's there, whether it's real or not. I mean, what is? You want to try this one? Right here.
Hey, is it wrong or bad to eat a full package of bacon? Because I just got an air fryer, and once you cook all the bacon, no one's telling me not to eat it. And I figure if I had a regular meal, I'd probably have a pound of food, some half pound of meat, some veggies over here. What if one of my meals is all bacon? Is that bad? Because, man, these crispy boys are crispy crispo. Crespo crispy.
I think all of that just to say Crespo crispy, which I support. Don't eat a whole pack of bacon. I love bacon, but I don't think you're supposed to do that.
Do whatever you want.
That's true. You can't do whatever you want.
And then suffer the repercussions.
I don't think it's healthy for you.
So that's a good thing about free will, which you
I
don't
couldn't
have
do
any.
it. I would have a hard time if I ate an entire thing of bacon. Your boys like bacon? Or Tommy does, right?
He doesn't really eat it.
Not really?
But will eat it. It's got to be non-fatty and crispy.
Crispy bacon.
Yeah. Then he'll like it. But and it turns out bacon not really that bad for you. Sugar is probably worse than bacon.
Sure.
It's
Maisie
just
loves bacon.
bacon on top of sugar, and then on top of you have high cholesterol.
Candied bacon, excellent.
Yeah.
It goes well together.
Yeah.
Maple bacon, I'm a big fan. I love bacon. We don't eat a ton of bacon, though. Every breakfast, though, tell me if this is bad, and I'm not exaggerating. Every breakfast, every morning, Maisie will get up, take her shower, and then come downstairs, and she will have a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, followed by a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant.
Oh, two?
Two, and a big glass of milk.
Wow.
It's a big breakfast. I can't even eat that much.
My sons don't barely eat, and I constantly yell at them because I'm
She
like,
eats a
how are
lot.
you going to get strong, and how are you going to grow if you don't eat? My Crystal's convinced that they're going to be short because they're not eating, and I'm like, that's
what
not
happened to me.
That's not a thing.
That's what happened to me, man. The first
like,
10 years of my
fine.
life, I didn't eat.
But
and then it ruined my hips too, because you need nutrition to keep your hips moving around. Yeah, Maisie eats like those. They're huge. They're giant, and they're croissants. It's all fat.
I wish they ate more. Well, but she also works out so much; it doesn't matter.
She does, but it's just tons. It's just tons of food.
like
it costs me so much to have an only child that exercises that much, because she's dancing all the time. We have as much food as like those moms that complain about baseball kids or soccer kids. We have that.
Yeah,
she just mows through the food. Giant bags of chips, salt and vinegar, all the way gone. Tortilla chips, all the way gone. I'll just go in as a little dad with a cane. I just want to get a little spoon of peanut butter, all gone.
Yeah, my sons don't eat, so I have no. I can't relate to it.
All gone.
They barely. We're constantly yelling at them to eat their dinner. Constantly yelling you have to eat. They don't eat anything.
Okay,
which is horrible.
It's gonna change one day, and then you're gonna.
I want them to eat. No, I like when they eat because I'm like, oh, it equates to being good for them. Like, oh, you're getting nutrients
nourishment
and calories. But again, they seem fine.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think. Last voicemail, then we'll take a break.
Hey there, Tom and Dan. Hey guys, it's Kenny. May not be the most interesting voicemail, but Tom may find this interesting. You guys were talking about the Game Genie and how it works. Basically, the old Nintendo, it's just binary code, so all the Game Genie would do is change the binary code that is sent from the cartridge to the actual Nintendo itself. So essentially, if the binary code says that your player only has 3 lives, what the Game Genie would do is intercept that code, alter it slightly, so instead of 3 lives, it's now infinite lives, and then that's what the actual Nintendo console would read. Anyway, that's just quickly overview of how it works. Love you guys. Bye.
Do you think if a genie came...
I love a good genie question. Thank you.
This is about Game Genie, too, which
thank
is
you for asking
rare
this.
that I get 2 genies.
It's a genie on genie.
And said that
Double genie.
I'll give you $100 million if you could figure out how to recode this Game Genie or whatever, or basically invent a secondary Game Genie so that you could it could mimic what a regular Game Genie does. You think you could, using the internet and unlimited, like say they give
you mean right now?
Yeah. Like could
use AI?
Could you research it and build it? Because it's rudimentary technology, right? Like from the 80s.
So could I build a Game Genie that would work? How long do I have?
An unlimited time.
I think with AI, I could, yeah. I do think I could.
Now,
if you had asked me that a year ago, I would have said that's a stupid and insane question.
Yeah.
But now with the way that AI is, and after also witnessing something my wife, she uses Copilot, which is different than ChatGPT. And I've seen her go in and make little programs or little scripts that are essentially a game. It's an app. She's made a little app, or she didn't make it.
AI made
it.
Her.
And this little app will allow her, and hopefully I'm not saying too much, will allow her boss to check the status of all of her records, of all the things they're working on, from a little desktop without even going in. It's just always there, like this thing behind me. Just this little sign behind me that shows the weather and stuff like that. And Andrea made a little thing for her boss so he can go and all of her little programs, like he can go and check.
Yes, and that's the tool of AI. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes. Putting it into a cartridge, making it work inside the machine, that's going to give me a problem. But I do think I could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. But eventually there's some YouTube video.
I talked to
that will
SJ a
show
little
you-
bit. There'd be some YouTube videos on how to connect it yourself.
Yeah. Like how to actually build the board or whatever.
Because it is rudimentary technology. That's going to be the fun thing. And you know what I kind of wish you were doing and I were doing right now with our kids? And I don't think you and I will ever get this. Tell me if you ever did this. I remember one Christmas I got one of those boards that had all these crazy wires and little alligator clips and batteries and lights and stuff, and you could wire stuff and use batteries and put together like your own circuitry. It was like we're like a Radio Shack kit. I know that's an old man toy.
Yeah,
But like I kind of wish that the pendulum, you know how like we're all back outside now because like we're so kind of sick of computers. I kind of wish that pendulum would swing back and we'd like get some wires, start hooking things up again.
I remember when the Grizz, before he went to the Army, he went to DeVry Institute. and then he got
Did he have one of those?
He got a circuit board like from one of his professors to bring home.
He's like, you could use this to practice your circuits.
Yeah. Then me and Turkey Leg put a doo-doo toilet paper on it.
You wiped and put it up.
Yeah.
That's
on
fantastic.
a circuit board.
Now you have doo-doo on your wires.
And then he's like, I'm going to the military.
When you crap on a man's circuit board, he will go to the military.
We laughed and we laughed. All right.
Kids don't do that anymore, right? That's not a thing.
What, a doo-doo toilet paper? I don't think my sons would think about doing that to their friend, but I should tell
They're
them.
better kids. You're right. You're right.
I'm like, put doo-doo toilet paper on your friend's circuit board.
You know what's funny is that I don't think
ruin their dreams.
I don't think your sons would do that, which does give me hope for the future.
You're right.
Because they're better than your friends.
Yeah. You're
Tommy
like,
and Max
do you
and
like your
Maisie-
friends? I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tommy, Max, and Maisie like their friends and would never pee or poop on any of their belongings. I'll bet on that. I'll bet my life on that. Those three kids would never do that, which should give us hope for the future.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Corporate Time.